and welcome to another episode of Ctrl Alt Defend. My name is Dirk Prinsloo, and in today's episode I'm going to take you through some of the latest news announced in February of 2025. Now, first of all, I want to talk about Defender XDR and specifically automated responses with a focus on attack disruption. So what is all of this stuff, right? So remember, Defender XDR correlates millions of signals and events across all the different Defender and Entra ID capabilities in the attempt to detect any kind of threats that are happening. Now, as part of the automated response capability of Defender for XDR, we also talk about attack disruption. So if Defender detects an ongoing attack or an initial attack, the obvious thing to do from an automated response perspective is to contain, these type of assets. So for example, ransomware, right? So if it starts spreading, you want to automatically be able to contain the devices, right? So isolate the devices. Or from an account perspective, you might want to disable an account or contain an account. Microsoft has now added another thing that we can exclude from that attack disruption. So we can exclude device groups, from that automated response capability. We can exclude user accounts. And now, because of network traffic blocking, which was going to be a network or an automated response, we can now exclude IP addresses from that attack disruption. Not sure why you would do that, though. You're missing the point. However, if you do need to exclude an internal trusted IP address from an appliance for whatever reason, yeah, you can go and do that. Don't do it. Security Copilot, the embedded experience. I'm sure you've seen this all over Defender. Actually, it's also in Purview nowadays. So if you're fortunate enough to be making use of Security Copilot, you would have seen this kind of prompt coming up. And when we are providing prompts to Security Copilot, for example, this one, we're trying to find some devices of stuff. It usually comes back with a KQL query. Now, I don't know if you're like me. I can't call myself a KQL expert. So I'm also just looking at this going, I'll typically just click the play button, right? Run the query and give me an answer. But if you're more inquisitive and trying to understand that KQL that was presented, Microsoft's now got this little thing that says, see the logic behind the query. And if you click on that, it gives you a reason behind the query, but also breaking down the query, explaining exactly what each item or line in the query is for, right? So great, we can start learning from these things. Now, moving over to Microsoft Purview, I have spoken about data security posture management for AI before. One of the components in DSPM for AI, damn, it's a long abbreviation. Anyway, one of the capabilities is to detect what users or how users are interacting with these generative AI platforms. Predominantly to identify what type of interaction. I mean, there's no way for us to monitor exactly what the responses are from these platforms, etc. However, we can, identify how users or business users interact with those platforms, with the idea that we try to have a view of, are they ingesting any business or sensitive data into these publicly available platforms? So what's the news then? The news is Microsoft has added more of these LLM or generative AI platforms to their list. Currently, there's about 360 different platforms, and I'm sure Microsoft will continue adding to this list. However, I'm thinking, it would be great if we can control that ourselves. Maybe there's a reason for us to limit or provide our own. So maybe one day. But at the moment, Microsoft manages this, and there's currently a list. I'll put a link in the description of the video that you can go and browse through the list. It is quite exhaustive. But as we know, everybody's drunk on AI. These things pop up every second. So it's going to be difficult to keep up. But I think Microsoft is obviously paying attention to the most obvious or most popular ones. So go take a look at those lists if you're interested in. And then lastly, new policy indicators for insider risk management. So what is this all about? So I'll briefly explain what insider risk management does, and then you'll kind of get this. So insider risk management uses different mechanisms to monitor a sequence of activities that user does, right? That could be anything from accessing a file. It could be downloading a file. It could be uploading a file. It could be copying a file from a device. It could be uploading a file to a third-party cloud vendor. It could be mailing it to Gmail. There could be a lot of things. And I think that the idea behind insider risk management is through using something like end user or user analytical behavior, rather is the term, is to put a trend in terms of what people are doing with company information. In the obvious attempts to identify any kind of insider threats. And it does so by what is called indicators. Now, indicators is just another word for the events. And there's a ton of events. The screenshot here on the screen is the categories of all those indicators. And you'll see there, obviously, in the list, there's quite a few. But one they've added now is Entra identity protection, right? So Entra ID protection, two specific events that are now being monitored, and that is risky sign-ins, and also, once an account has been deemed potentially compromised. So it's now just factoring those risky elements into the two policies that you could create into insider risk management. Now you would ask, why, if you should be ticking all of these indicators. Yes, absolutely. However, over time, you'll see that insider risk management is not a one size fits all. So you want to probably choose the indicators that you want to minimize the amount of the alerts that gets generated, or maybe it's something in very specific in particular that you want to include into your policies. But as a great addition, we now have these two additional Entra ID policy indicators. Fantastic. And that's all we have time for. I know it was very quick, very short. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. I still owe you guys a proper introduction to Microsoft Entra Suite. I've started with that already. But I want to make sure that we cover not just an overview, but actually some demos, right? So look out for that one. And then, thank you for watching. Take care now. Bye-bye then.